Hello there, you're watching Rajya Sabha TV. This is news at 10 with me, Aishwarya Kapoor. Let us begin with the headlines. Pakistan says it may consider India's request for a visit by the NIA team to further probe Pathankot terror strike, lays down High Commissioner's statement on suspension of dialogue. India talks tough with China on the issue of Masood Azhar. External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj asks Beijing to review position of blocking UN bid to designate him as terrorist. Defence Minister also raises issue with the Chinese counterpart. Political slugfest over Ishrat Jahan encounter case. BJP accuses Congress and former Home Minister P. Chidambaram of underplaying terror plot to kill Narendra Modi. Congress counters, says real issue of fake encounter being ignored. Most parts of the country continue to reel under heat wave. Temperatures cross 40 degrees Celsius in several states. No relief soon, says Met Department. And landslides hamper rescue work as Ecuador quake toll rises to 413. State of emergency declared. UN prepares for a major airlift. Top story this hour. Now, Pakistan on Monday indicated that it may consider a request by India to further probe the Pathankot terror attack. Now, Pakistan Prime Minister's advisor on Foreign Affairs, Sartaj Aziz, has indicated that his country may consider a request by India for a visit by its NIA team to further probe the Pathankot terror strike. In an interview to CNN News 18, Aziz downplayed Pakistan High Commissioner to India Abdul Basit's comments that the bilateral peace process was suspended. He said it did not mean that it has been cancelled or given up. He also hoped that the Indo-Pak dialogue will resume soon. Now, on being asked about whether NIA team will be allowed to visit Pakistan, Sartaj Aziz said that once that stage is reached and India does make a request, then they will see. Aziz also alleged that the arrest of Kulbhushan Jadhav, a former naval officer, had revealed a network operating in Balochistan, and more arrests had been made in the case. Jadhav was arrested by Pakistani authorities last month. They alleged that he was an Indian spy. Meanwhile, India did some tough talking with China on the issue of Beijing blocking a United Nations ban on Masood Azhar. On Monday, External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj told her Chinese counterpart that Beijing must review its position on the issue. The issue was discussed during Sushma's second and final leg of the two-nation tour to Moscow, where she attended the Foreign Ministers Summit with China and Russia. Strong rebuke to China, with External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj strongly expressing India's displeasure on Beijing blocking a United Nations ban on Jaish-e-Mohammed chief Masood Azhar. During her Moscow trip to attend the RIC summit, Sushma Swaraj met her Chinese counterpart Wang Yi and brought up the last-minute objection made by China at the United Nations Security Council that prevented Azhar from being designated a terrorist by a committee that deals with sanctions. India says Azhar masterminded January's attack on the Pathankot Air Force base near the border with Pakistan, in which 7 military personnel were killed.
मैं चीन के विदेश मंत्री वांग यी जी से अलग भी मिली थी और वहां भी मैंने उनसे ये कहा कि अगर हमें आतंकवाद से मिलकर लड़ने का इरादा पूरा करना है तो संयुक्त राष्ट्र संघ की कमेटी 1267 में जो भूमिका उन्होंने ली है उस निर्णय पर उन्हें पुनर्विचार करना चाहिए.
Sushma brought up the issue of terrorism again at the Foreign Ministers Summit that includes Russia and China, warning the international community of serious consequences if it continues to adopt double standards in dealing with terrorism. Later, addressing a press conference along with Wang and her Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov, Swaraj said there was a need to craft an effective global strategy to counter terrorism, including at the United Nations.
The RIC countries must lead the way in getting the international community together to counter terrorism through joint action, including at the United Nations. We must not fail in this regard. If we continue to adopt double standards in dealing with terrorism, it will have serious consequences, not just for our own countries, but the international community as a whole.
In her address at the RIC, Swaraj also talked about the United Nations Security Council reform and said a greater urgency was required on the issue. India had earlier this week slammed the use of hidden veto at the United Nations and demanded accountability, saying the world body's general members are never informed of the reason for not acceding to requests for sanctioning terrorists.
We need greater urgency on this issue. I seek the support of my Chinese and Russian colleagues for taking the IGN process forward.
Earlier, Sushma Swaraj also had bilateral talks with her Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov, where apart from bilateral issues, Sushma Swaraj raised the death of 3 Indians at a Russian medical university earlier this year. She further expressed regret over acid attack on a Russian girl in India recently. Lavrov, meanwhile, expressed gratitude to India for its support during Russia's chairmanship of the BRICS. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV. Meanwhile, Beijing blocking India's efforts to get Pakistan-based JEM chief Masood Azhar banned by the United Nations was also raised at Defence Minister Manohar Parrikar meeting with his Chinese counterpart Chang Wang-Quan. Now, Parrikar, who is in China, said that we expressed what happened in the United Nations is not in the right direction and they have to take a common line on terrorism, which is in the interests of both India and China. Now, apart from that, India also expressed its reservation in regard to China's activities in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, where Pakistan and China are now building a $46 billion economic corridor linking the two countries. Meanwhile, India and China have moved a step closer in setting up a hotline between the two military headquarters as part of their efforts to improve border security. The Defence Minister today will meet Premier Li Keqiang and later visit Chengdu, which is the headquarters of the recently integrated Western Command military, which has the jurisdiction over entire borders with India. Meanwhile, back home, the political slugfest over the 2004 Ishrat Jahan encounter has begun again. Now, the BJP has accused the Congress and then Home Minister P. Chidambaram of underplaying a terror plot that could eliminate Narendra Modi. The latest fight has begun following an RTI reply in which it emerged that Chidambaram had signed the original affidavit describing Ishrat Jahan as part of a Lashkar module. The BJP trained its guns on Congress Chief Sonia Gandhi and Vice President Rahul Gandhi and alleged that they conspired with Chidambaram to target Narendra Modi, who was then the Chief Minister of Gujarat. Chidambaram in a statement said that the second affidavit was filed after thorough consultation with the then Home Secretary as well as the Attorney General. The Congress said that the BJP is trying to divert attention from the real issue of fake encounters.
देखिए, उस समय का गृह मंत्री चिदम्बरम जी ने जो काम किया है और जो फाइल में जो नोट दिया और आज सबके सामने में जो आया है, उससे देश को बड़ा नुकसान हुआ है और एक गृह मंत्री इस तरह का काम करेगा ये हमें कभी उम्मीद नहीं था। मुझे लगता है कि चिदम्बरम साहब को किसी तरीके से दबाव डाला होगा।
जो देश को डाइवर्शनरी टैक्टिक्स से देश के मुद्दों पे बहस नहीं करके मैन्युफैक्चर्ड मुद्दों पे डिबेट कराने की बात हो रही है। जैसे जैसे देश के लोगों को ये समझ आएगी, मुद्दा डाइवर्ट होता जाएगा।
If she was a terrorist, could she be liquidated in this manner? Could she be liquidated in an encounter? The issue is that one district judge, one high court and 2 committees including SIT have found that the liquidation of Ishrat Jahan was by unlawful means in a false encounter.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in Katra in Jammu and Kashmir today to address the convocation of Sri Mata Vaishno Devi University and attend some other events as well. He will also inaugurate the Sri Mata Vaishno Devi Narayana Super Speciality Hospital and a sports complex besides addressing a public meeting. The 230-bed hospital has been set up by the Sri Mata Vaishno Devi Shrine Board at a cost of 300 crore rupees. Now, elaborate security arrangements are in place at the venue and on the route for the Prime Minister's visit. Governor N.N. Vohra, Chairman of the Shrine Board and Chief Minister of the State, Mehbooba Mufti, will also be present at the occasion. Later, the women's football teams of Jammu and Kashmir and Himachal Pradesh will play a friendly match in the presence of the Prime Minister. And these are the live visuals that we are getting from Katra, where Prime Minister Narendra Modi is there. He will be addressing the convocation of Sri Mata Devi Vaishno Devi University, and he will also attend some other events there. Prime Minister is also due to inaugurate the Sri Mata Vaishno Devi Narayana Super Speciality Hospital and a sports complex. Well, news from Gujarat now. Well, the Bandh call given by PATEL QUOTA agitators on Monday failed to evoke much response in the state. The Bandh passed off peacefully, barring in Mehsana, where a mob torched a minister's vacant house. Now, a state committee of ministers formed to negotiate with the QUOTA agitators held a fruitful and positive meeting in Gandhinagar over the demands with several leaders of the PATEL community who are working as mediators. Now, another round of talks will soon be held to arrive at a solution. Now, police had made elaborate security arrangements in view of the statewide Bandh call given by the Sardar Patel group, who are demanding reservation and also immediate release of their jail leaders. But the opposition parties have criticized the government, saying that there is anarchy under the BJP rule. They also said that the state government is incompetent and anti-people.
Mehsana and other districts have been denied even mobile telephony facilities. Couple of hundreds, I'm told close to 1,000 people have been put behind bars. Brutal lathi charge has been done on agitationists. Many have suffered serious injuries. For the first time, Gujarat police has resorted to pelting stones on agitationists. Is this not a failure of Modi model of governance?
Moving on in the bulletin now, a number of states now are expected to express their views on the contentious Enemy Property Amendment and Validation Bill of 2016 at a select committee meeting of the Rajya Sabha today. The panel, headed by BJP MP Bhupendra Yadav, had in its meeting on 11th of April sought written responses of the state governments on the bill. The bill seeks to guard against claims of succession or transfer of enemy properties of people who migrated to Pakistan and China after the wars. It had then also voiced displeasure over states not sending senior officials before it to present their views on the measure. Now, this panel has been asked to scrutinize the bill and also submit its report in the opening week of the next parliament session, which begins from 25th of April. The upper house had on 15th of March adopted a motion for referring the bill to the select committee. Now to the other big story. Well, the centre today told the Supreme Court that India should not stake claim to the famed Kohinoor diamond. It said that the $200 million diamond was neither stolen nor forcibly taken away. The 105-carat diamond was in fact handed over to the East India Company by Maharaja Ranjit Singh as a gift. The top court was petitioned by the organisation, the All India Human Rights and Social Justice Front, which says that the Kohinoor and other famous antiques, including the ring and sword of Tipu Sultan, be returned to India by the United Kingdom. The Kohinoor diamond was set in a crown for Queen Victoria and is currently on display in the Tower of London. Now, people have been demanding the return of the 105-carat stone for decades now, but the British government had in 2013 rejected the demands.
देखिए, कोहिनूर हीरा आज़ादी के पहले क्या विषय है। संस्कृति मंत्रालय की हमारी जो गाइडलाइंस हैं उनके अंदर आज़ादी के बाद की विषयों की हमारा मंत्रालय उस पर संज्ञान लेता है और इस विषय पर अगर कभी कोई कॉल ली जाएगी तो एक्सटर्नल अफेयर्स मिनिस्टर या भारत सरकार उचित समय पर लेगी।
उस पत्थर से हर भारतीय का भावनात्मक लगाव है। आ जाता तो अच्छा था। हमारी सरकारों ने भी कोशिश की। सरकार को कोशिश करनी चाहिए, सरकार को अपनी मंशा दर्शानी चाहिए कि हमारी इच्छा है, आ जाए तो हम सब स्वागत करेंगे उसका।
Well, in News at 10, we'll take a very short break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Desert, and that too extreme. Only the fittest can survive here. This is the great Indian Thar Desert, and these are the world-famous shifting sand dunes of the Thar. They appear like fast-moving waves at the seashore, but it is not the sea, it is the desert. These shifting sand dunes of the Thar are located at a tricky and highly volatile spot along the international border with Pakistan. With strong surface winds during the summer months, these sand dunes changed their locations almost overnight.
Welcome back. Now an update on Vijay Mallya, and the Enforcement Directorate will soon seek an Interpol arrest warrant against liquor baron Vijay Mallya. This arrest warrant will be based on a non-bailable warrant issued by a Mumbai court in a money laundering case. Now, officials said that the agency will soon write to the global police body through the Indian Nodal Office of the CBI to get issued a red corner notice against him. Mallya, remember, had left the country on 2nd of March and is said to be in Britain at present. The Ministry of External Affairs had recently suspended the Rajya Sabha MP's diplomatic passport. Mallya, remember, had refused to appear before the Enforcement Directorate on 3 previous occasions when he was summoned between 10th of March and 2nd of April. Now in weather update, well, most parts of the country continue to reel under the heat wave with the temperature crossing 40 degrees Celsius in several states. Now, there will be no relief from it soon, as the Met Department has predicted intense heat for coming days as well, with mercury rising further. Hot weather conditions continue to prevail across the country, with mercury hovering over 40 degrees Celsius temperature in most places. Odisha continued to express intense heat wave, with Sonepur recording the highest temperature at 46 degrees Celsius. At least 16 towns in the state recorded over 40 degrees Celsius, with Met Department saying temperature will only rise. The government says it is making all efforts to deal with the situation.
Further rise in temperature indicates from 20th. What we are anticipating from 21st, 22nd, some of the places may record more than 45 degree temperature in interior parts of Odisha, and coastal parts also may record 42 degrees Celsius at some of the locations.
Our state government has taken due steps for supply of water in all scarcity areas. Tankers more than 500 have been engaged for supply of water. Also, extra gangmen have been deployed for repair of tube wells.
In Telangana, the highest maximum temperature of 44 degrees Celsius was recorded at Adilabad, Nalgonda and Nizamabad. The Met officials have issued a fresh heat wave warning for the next 2 days. Thunderstorm and hail are also expected, but it is unlikely to mitigate the situation. With over 100 deaths in the region, the state government is making all-out efforts to prevent sunstroke deaths. The state also launched a portal which would provide information on heat wave predictions.
जो गर्मी मई में होने की थी वो गर्मी अप्रैल में हो रही, इसलिए आईटी के द्वारा जो है आज जो पोर्टल का इनाग्रेशन किया गया उससे लोगों को इस बात का अंदाजा, और गवर्नमेंट बहुत ज्यादा कोशिश करे। हमारे ऑनरेबल सीएम साहब ऑलरेडी इंस्ट्रक्शन दे चुके हैं तमाम कलेक्टर्स को, जहां इंसानों के लिए जहां धूप ज्यादा होगी वहां पर फ्री छाया सप्लाई किया जाए, पानी का इंतजाम किया जाए और लोगों को अवेयरनेस डेवलप किया जाएगा, धूप में मत जाइए।
It was a hot and dry day in the national capital Delhi as well, with the maximum temperature registered at 40.2 degrees Celsius, 3 notches above normal. Uttar Pradesh also continued to reel under severe heat, with mercury soaring in most parts of the state.
इसके शुरू होते ही इतनी भीषण तपन यहाँ घाट पर हो रहा है कि 7 और 8 के बीच में लोग घर भाग रहे हैं, यहाँ पर कोई रुकने का नाम नहीं ले रहा है।
तेज है, क्लास में कूलर पंखा सब चल रहा है, उसमें भी पता चल रहा है कि बहुत तेज गर्मी है।
With most of the country covered in intense heat, the Met Department has said heavy rainfall accompanied by hail is likely to hit several parts of Meghalaya and Assam this week. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV. And let's now bring you some international news. On to news from Brazil. President Dilma Rousseff says that she is outraged at attempts to impeach her and that she has a clear conscience. Now, speaking after the lower house of Congress voted to begin impeachment proceedings against her, Rousseff said that she had done nothing wrong. She further said that she would fight the injustice that she was facing and that she would not bow to pressure. Lawmakers in the lower house of Congress voted overwhelmingly in favor of sending an impeachment motion against her to the upper house. The upper house, that is the Senate, will now have to decide whether to start an impeachment trial. Senators are expected to vote on the matter early next month. Now, polls conducted by Brazil's major newspaper suggest that a majority of the senators will actually vote in favor of the trial. Well, if that happens, Rousseff will be suspended from office while the trial is underway. During her suspension period, Vice President Michel Temer will become the acting president.
Injustiçada porque considero que esse processo é processo que não tem base de sustentação. E é por isso que eu me sinto injustiçado. A injustiça sempre ocorre quando se esmaga.
And the death toll from the devastating earthquake that hit Ecuador has now crossed 400. More than 2,000 people were injured in Saturday's quake, which also ripped apart buildings and roads and knocked out power cables along the Pacific coastline. Now, as the rescue efforts continue to gather pace, President Correa has told media that Ecuador has come together in the face of the quake tragedy. Desperate scenes in Ecuador continue as rescuers and family members search for survivors. The 7.8 magnitude quake that hit Ecuador on Saturday evening has killed more than 400 and injured over 2,500 so far. Helicopters and buses ferrying troops have been hampered by landslides.
Yo estaba en Atacama haciendo compras, estaba mi hija que casi la atrapa. El esposo la cogió y la sacó y luego que salieron, entonces ahí se vino la casa.
President Rafael Correa visited some of the victims while warning that the death toll could increase. A state of emergency has been declared in the country.
La cifra oficial de fallecidos es de 272 a nivel nacional. Vengo haciendo un recorrido, temo que esa cifra aumentará porque seguimos removiendo escombros, tenemos la esperanza de encontrar sobrevivientes, las primeras horas son cruciales, ya han pasado más de 24 horas del terremoto, sin embargo hay señales de vida en muchos de los escombros y se está dando prioridad para aquello.
The Ecuadorian government has declared it is the worst quake in the country since 1979. Meanwhile, support has poured in for Ecuador from several other countries.
Números se han dado de gentes que lamentablemente perdieron la vida, se habla de más de 350 personas y eventualmente la cifra puede crecer. Mientras estamos aquí,
estamos preparando el primer vuelo, ¿no? del Hércules, que va a llevar ayuda consistente en vitualla, alimento y principalmente medicina y agua potable.
The United Nations has prepared for a major airlift to Ecuador, and the European Union is set to release €1 million in assistance for the quake victims. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV. Let's bring you some more international stories in World Wrap. US President Barack Obama has stated that the United States is set to provide more support to Iraq as its military moves to take back territory from the Islamic State. US officials announced that it will deploy about 200 additional troops, mostly as advisors for the Iraqi troops as they advance towards Mosul, the largest Iraqi city still under Islamic State control. The increase raises the authorized US troop level in Iraq to 4,087, not including special operations personnel. Chinese authorities have launched a probe after a report that hundreds of children attending a language school built near polluted former industrial site developed health problems, including cancer. Of the 641 students who underwent health checks recently, 493 were found to have conditions ranging from a chronic cough, headaches, and local blood abnormalities to lymphoma and leukemia. Several Syrian rebel groups have announced a new offensive against the government. They say the move is a response to ceasefire violations from President Bashar al-Assad's forces. The group said in a joint statement on Monday that they would respond with force to any army units that fire on civilians in what they call a fresh battle. Around 200 migrants who were rescued from boats in the Mediterranean arrived in the Sicilian port of Pozzallo. The migrants, including 64 children, were taken on land on board a French rescue vessel. Meanwhile, Egyptian, Italian and Greek officials were unable to confirm a report on Monday that up to 400 people, most of them Somali, had capsized near the Egyptian coast after setting off for Italy in boats. Let's now bring you all the sporting action. Here is the sports beat. The International Hockey Federation has announced a new global league to be launched in 2019. The new league involving world's leading hockey nations will replace the Hockey World League, the semi-finals and finals and the Champions Trophy. FIH said that the new league was designed to provide a regular calendar for the game and to make hockey a global sport. Tottenham thrashed Stoke City 4-0 to close in the gap on the leaders Leicester City in the English Premier League. Harry Kane and Dele Alli scored 2 goals each to wrap up a Spurs' 9th away win of the season. Tottenham are now 5 points behind Leicester with 4 games still remaining.
It's a sensational finish, but he does telegraph exactly what he's looking for.
Tennis players Novak Djokovic and Serena Williams were named the Sportsman and Sportswoman of the Year at the annual Laureus World Sports Awards. Both the athletes had won 3 Grand Slams last year. Brazil's Paralympic swimmer Daniel Dias was named Disabled Sportsperson of the Year. Well, that's all in this edition of News at 10. Thanks so much for your time.